friends. Welcome back to the Milk and Madness podcast, where we explore parenthood one episode at a time. If this is your first time joining us, we're so glad to have you with us. And to our regular listeners, thank you for being part of our community. I'm your host, Nhi.
And I'm your host, Dee. Today, we're going to revisit a topic we've spoken about briefly before, identity, how our sense of self shapes our parenting style, and most recently, how we've found our identity has been evolving. Now, Nhi, I think we can both describe you as someone who is really self-aware, really confident in your own skin, and all in all just comfortable with who you are. Like, you've done a lot of soul searching and all that jazz. I think, can we agree on that to begin?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
However, obviously that doesn't mean that you're bulletproof, and we've spoken in the past about the shift in identity when we became a parent. Now, I thought that was all in the past, but you've made me rethink everything when you told me recently how you feel like you're going through a second wave. So talk me through what's been going on and why you feel a shift in your identity again.
Yes, I think I was reflecting on this last night, but I think the thing about our identity and it shifting is that it's constant. And I think the thing for me is that it is so linked, it's so intertwined with my kids. It is so linked with being a mum, right? So the thing is, before you have kids, you own that. It's your identity, and there's nothing else that changes it or really impacts it. It's you, right? That drives that change. If you want to go through, do some soul searching, or you want to change who you are, an aspect of yourself, then that's up to you, full control in terms of that. But I think the thing with being a mum and being a parent is that it is constantly changing because your kids are constantly changing. And where you are in your journey of being a mum, being a parent, is constantly changing too. So I just feel the last couple of weeks, I can't put my finger on it exactly. I would say the waves, it's constant. And it's not like you have a kid, you've lost your identity, or it's really shifted, it's changed, and then you find yourself again, then voila, that's you for the rest of your life, right? I think even if you don't have kids, you go through that anyway because you grow and you evolve as we get older. But I feel like that's just really magnified by having kids. And I just think like maybe there's been a few shifts in terms of my kids recently. Maybe Kenzo's just become a little bit independent, or we're going through Ambrose's terrible 3 stage and literally has hit a few weeks after he turned 3. It's so funny. But I don't know. Maybe that stuff has impacted my thoughts in terms of identity lately.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think for me, I just thought, like what you said earlier, it's you become a parent and you go through that big shift, and then I was like, okay, this is it. Now like, I'm good. Like I don't have to worry about this anymore. But you really made me think about when you brought that up. I was like, oh, is that kind of what's been going on? Because obviously, as well as having kids, and now Aiden turning 6, getting older, obviously them starting school, I feel like that all changed. And then in my personal life as well, I've got a lot of things happening, and so they're also linked to my identity. And so I'm in that space where, who am I now? I know it's temporary. Who I am now is temporary. I'm going to become somebody else in however many months as again, because new things will come and I'll grow and I'll evolve, and I'm changing, like the things that I was doing a couple of months ago I'm not. And I don't know, in my head I just thought that's it, it's done. But no, it just keeps going. It's ever changing, it's ever growing.
Yeah, totally. And it's different to that first feeling of, oh, who am I? And I think for me anyways, it was when you're lying there like that first night in the hospital and you're holding on to your baby and you're just like, holy moly, my life is just radically changed. It's just, I have no idea what this is. I've never been here before. I've never experienced this before. And suddenly I'm a mum. It's whoa, crazy. And that person who used to be like partying heaps, or that person who used to do whatever it was, like she's gone and replaced with someone else. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, absolutely not. But that change takes some time to adjust to.
Mm.
And so that first initial change, that overwhelming, whoa, I'm a mum, whoa, this is big. That's the that's a big shift. And then what I find now is that every now and again I have these moments where I'm like, oh, okay, yep, sure, that's part of who I am, or that's maybe how I've changed recently, or whatever it is, but it's smaller, but it's more regular, I would
Hmm.
say. And I'm
Yeah.
just trying to be very self-aware in terms of when that stuff is happening. It's not always a bad thing. It's not like I'm grieving this person who I was 6 months ago or a year ago, whatever it is. No, it's more of a just an acknowledgement that, oh, okay, I've just, I don't know, part of me has changed a little bit in some way
Mm.
because of whatever reason. And sometimes there's no reason. This constant feeling that I'm on a path and I've just slightly detoured slowly, or I've taken a turn somewhere that maybe I didn't anticipate because you can't plan all of this stuff. Yeah, that's probably the best way I'm going to be able to describe
Yeah.
it today.
And I think it's when you're, to your point, when you're sitting there after you've got the baby in your belly, they're safe, they're warm, they're fine, they're contained, they don't need feeding, you don't really need to do anything. Then you give birth, and that first night, especially, I remember that first night quite vividly with Aiden. It's the weight of the responsibility that I think kind of triggers that shift. And you're like, hang on a minute. Now I've actually got to do stuff. Now I actually am responsible for a person. Now I can't just leave because I have to breastfeed. I can't, like, as in go out for shopping for a couple of hours because I have to breastfeed, or I can't go to the gym because my body's not there yet. And just the things that you used to be able to do, you can't do anymore. For me now, currently, just with, like I said, Aiden turning 6 and starting school and becoming that school mum and meeting new people. And when you said that you can't put your finger on it, I can't put my finger on it either. I think it's those little 1% things that happen, that you talk to someone, that you listen to something, that you just have these little aha moments where you just grow as a person. And then sometimes it means that the people that you were friends with, or the people that you saw as heroes, or the things that you used to enjoy doing, that no longer feeds you, that no longer drives your passion, that it's not for you anymore. And yeah, sometimes it's a little bit sad because you're like, oh, I used to love doing that. But it's also exciting because then it opens up an opportunity to be like, what can I do now that I'm no longer doing those things? Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just what you do with that information. So for you,
Yeah.
there was nothing specific that triggered it. It was just like along the way as you go, Kenzo turning 6, Ambrose turning 3, going through these new phases with your kids, you are growing and evolving with them. Because I feel I had to message one of our friends yesterday, because we got a message from the school saying that we need to bring a shoebox with some stuff in there because the kids are doing a diorama. And I was like, what on earth is a diorama? I don't remember back to my days of school. I thought that was all behind me. But no, I feel like
No.
I'm almost going through school again.
Yeah, you are, yeah.
And so she's like, it's this. And I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? I'll bring you some stuff. Like, okay, great.
Bless. So
Thank God for Google is all I'm going to say. Because I don't
yep.
remember any of that stuff. But yeah, so I feel like I'm going through school again as an adult, but through a different lens because I'm supporting my kid through it as well. So anyway, it's very complicated and it is intertwined with our kids. Something that came to mind that I heard once was about how parents their identity is so linked to their kids that if their kids did something, or basically they identify themselves through their kids. So anything the kid does, whether it's good or bad, they take it really personally. So if it's good, then they see it as their own personal achievement. If it's bad, then they take it to heart and feel like they've failed and that it's all on them. What are your thoughts on that? Where do you feel you are in regards to that?
Yep. Yes. So I think that I am fiercely holding on to the fact that I have my own identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is an internal struggle, which feeds this kind of like this identity shift feeling of what's happening kind of thing, right? Because yes, I'm a mum and it's my most precious role and I love it, but it's a part of me as a bigger person. And so I think where I have moments where I feel like my identity is so linked to my kids, I struggle with that sometimes because I'm like, yes, they're a part of me, but I am my own person. And when I start to feel that my identity is based on what's going on with my kids, I
Mm-hmm.
have a problem with that. I do have a problem with that. And I do know that there are definitely parents out there who, what you just said, what you just described in terms of the impact of their kids and what's going on with their kids really plays a massive role with their identity. I get that. I totally get that. But for me personally, that's something that I really strongly am trying to fight against in terms of it becoming my whole identity. I just refuse for that to happen. And I think it's so important for my kids to know that mum is our mum, but she's also all these other things that she loves and that she enjoys and that she's capable of doing. Like that is just so important. So there's that struggle for me internally. And then the other thing I was thinking about in terms of just how your identity, how it constantly evolves and something that changes all the time. And this is, I read this ages ago. I think it made me cry because I'm like, oh, that's so true. Being a parent is basically every day is losing your kid a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
They become a little bit more independent every day. And I feel for me that maybe there are moments or there are things where I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I think they've just stepped back a little bit more. And I think that has a cascading effect in terms of, oh, okay, my role as their mum. How much do they need me? As it gets less every day. So I'm going to be an absolute mess when they move out. I'm like, oh my God, like that's going to be crazy. But yeah, as they need you less, that has a flow on effect to you as a parent, how much you're needed. And then that is linked to your identity. And then for me, I already am pushing against that being everything in terms of me being a mum. So I feel like all those pieces together, there are moments where I'm just like, whoa, okay, what's going on here? Why are we feeling whatever it is that we're feeling? Let's try to pinpoint it, trying to articulate poorly what is going on. Yes.
It is hard to
Yeah.
articulate though. It's so complex. The
Hmm.
That quote that you read is so true. It is so true. And it was such a big thing for me when I became a mum that I remember my sister actually like a couple of months in, she was like, how you doing? How's your identity? Because she just knew how important my identity was to me. Now, what I didn't really grasp at the time was I was so fixated on I'm going to keep my identity, this is who I am, and didn't really think, yes, I am still who I am, but it's shifted to also becoming a mum. And in those early days, that's what you have to be. You have to be there for your
Hmm.
baby. Like that is your
Hmm.
sole job. Look after yourself, look after your baby, because they're not independent. They can't put their own shoes on. They can't do anything for themselves. That's just the role that you have to play at the start. And then progressively as you go, to your point, it changes. And all of a sudden they can reach up on the cupboard, and all of a sudden they're using the scissors by themselves, and all of a sudden they're tying their shoelaces, go to the bathroom, etc.
Feed themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and then soon they'll be catching the bus to go to school by themselves. And there's pros and cons that come with that. Obviously, you get more time back for yourself. What I was worried about initially was, and I was trying to future proof myself, was the emptiness syndrome. I didn't want to get to a stage where I made life all about my kids, where everything was so revolved around them that I lost everything that I loved, that I lost who I was, that I just lost all of that and was so consumed by them that when it came to the point where they would have to move out or go overseas or travel and live their own lives, because that's what we're working towards. We're working towards them being independent, self-sufficient human beings, that I didn't want it to impact me. Like, I didn't want it to devastate me. And so I feel quite strongly about trying to let them not only the component of it of them becoming independent on their own, but also the other side, the flip side is protecting my own mental health and making sure that I'm not so involved in everything, that I don't give them the tools to survive on their own, but I also don't hinder myself from being my own person. I don't want to get to however old I'll get to when they move out and be like, now what? Who's me? What do I enjoy? And not to say that can't happen. That does happen and people rejuvenate their life and they start fresh and all that jazz. But yeah, I'd seen it in the past and I'm like, no, I don't really, that's not what I want to do. I want to try something different. I want to be okay. I still want to be me. So
Yeah.
it's a huge thing. And yeah, it is going to keep evolving. You might move house, you might get new friends, you might move jobs, you start a new sporting team. All those things I think impact your identity slightly. But I think if you can just be conscious of it and try and pinpoint where it's coming from, maybe it will help you not be so devastated if something does change in your life and you're like, oh, I don't have this thing anymore and that's all I based my life around and I'm not that anymore. That question when people ask you, tell me about yourself, and you're like, I'm a mom of two. If that's the first thing that I say, I don't want to say that. That should be somewhere in there, but that's not who necessarily I
It's
am.
not the
So
all. It's not
it's
the
not the
all
be
end
all end
be
all.
all. That's
Yeah.
it. Yes,
Yeah.
but I think it's just. I think you've got to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
We acknowledge everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You acknowledge how your kids are feeling. We make such a deal of when they are learning new things and they're capable of something new. Kenzo can read pretty much, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so big. This is massive. You can read, yay! And he's, I'm so proud. All this stuff. Like we acknowledge all the different milestones that they go through. So in a way, it's I feel like I'm going through different milestones. I don't know what they are beforehand often, but like with kids, you do like you're gonna eat and then you're gonna go learn how to go to the toilet, then you'll learn how to read and blah blah blah, all that stuff. So it's a bit more laid out. But for us, it's I don't know, our journey is unpredictable as a mum, somewhat. Some things, sure, but then it's really acknowledging it, good or bad, whatever it is that's going on, and talking to people about it, I think is really important. What we're doing right now, everyone's listening to this therapy session that I'm having, but I think it's so important, especially if things are a bit muddy, a bit unclear in terms of like, why am I feeling a bit not uneasy? It's a mix of emotions in terms of whatever phase of change that you're going through. I think just talk to people who've gone through it or who are going through it as well. So that's why our mothers group is so great, because the friends that I've made from mothers group are going through the same thing or are going through or have gone through. So it's just so great that we like, oh yeah, totally understand that. Yep, that makes sense. If you're not a crazy weirdo, and yeah, just to validate all that stuff is really good. Yeah.
Especially if you can't pinpoint what
Mm-hmm.
you're actually feeling. Sometimes if you do talk to somebody else, oh, that's how I felt a couple of weeks ago, and I realized it was because of this, and then it might just click, and you're like, oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to self-assess sometimes. Like you need a third party to come in and be like, oh, could it be this or could it be that? And it's things that you might not have considered because you're in it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Yes.
and so it's
Yeah.
so good to talk to people, whoever it is, even if it's a stranger. Like I say, go for it, because everyone
Yep.
has a little bit of wisdom that you just don't know how it might actually help you or where it might sit with you. So I don't know,
Yep.
I talk to randoms all the time.
And like your partner, if you have a partner, is there as well.
Yeah.
And it's always really interesting because I'll say stuff and Matthew, my husband, will be like, oh yeah, no. No, like he's not going through the same shift, or I think their identity as a father is different to us as a mother. So I would say that they go through these shifts of evolution of change as well, but it's often really different to ours. And because their relationship with our kids are often different. So for example, yeah, this is a prime example. Last night we were talking about it because my kids have been attached to me since day one. Sometimes I think they've never cut the umbilical cord, honestly, because they are so attached to me. But my oldest Kenzo is 6 now, and the last few months, and maybe this has impacted my identity change as well, because it's gone from me being the main parent, the one that I call for everything. And it's really great because I can see their relationship just evolving, where every night used to be just me reading. Oh, mum has to read all the books. But then slowly, lately, they've been reading and they've been going off in their little corner to read at night time. Whilst Ambrose is still attached. Ambrose's umbilical cord is still there, has not been cut. So Ambrose would be like, no, it has to be mum. Mum has to read with me. It has to be mum. Go away, daddy, all this stuff. But I can see the shift with Matthew and Kenzo, and it's so great to see. And Matt was saying last night is Kenzo's been feeling me a bit more lately. I'm like, yeah, I know, how great. So I think that stuff, right? We're both going through shifts slightly different that impact each other, that is impacted from what's going on from our kids. So your partner is there as well. If you have a partner to talk about this stuff, and they are going through this journey with you, so don't forget that they're there. You can talk to them as well.
That's such a good point. And it also helps in that sometimes they don't realize exactly what's going on with you because they don't have to do some of these things and have to think about some of these things because it just doesn't affect them, right? So when you explain it to them, it just gives them a little insight in what you're going through and what your mental thought process is and your mental load might be and all that. So it's definitely really good. With us, the kids are the same. The kids are pretty much 100% on me 24/7. Like I'm the chosen one, which is nice, but not all the time, right? Sometimes you're just like, I just need a second. Like, just let me rest, or let me go to the bathroom uninterrupted, or let me eat my food without you needing me to get up and get you something and whatever. But, and Aiden is still 100% me, first choice every time. Amelia, though, she has transitioned a lot. So she was always 100% at the start. Obviously, she was a baby. It was always me. And then it went to a 70 me, 30 Calvin. And now it's probably 50-50, if not, sometimes she prefers him over me. Not often, but it's getting there, and I can see it happening. And it's, on one hand, you're like, yay, like, that's so good. Go, bond, and do all the things, and give me a break. But on the other hand, I'm like, why don't you want me now?
Totally. Yes.
It's a catch-22 because you're like, but why? What did I do? Why don't you want me? It is good, and I think it will go in waves, and I'm glad for Calvin as well because I want to help, and we always say Dad's got arms too. He can heat up your breakfast, or he can bring you your blanket, or he can do things as well. So we always say that. No, I want mum. No, I want mum. Okay. So yeah, that's also happening as well. Maybe when it happens with Aiden, like Aiden will still do stuff with Calvin. They'll do stuff together, but ultimately it is always me that he chooses. So the day that I want Dad to do this, I'm like stabbing my heart, but it's fine. It'll be fine. Yeah. I'll be fine. It's that evolution.
It's going to be a moment.
It
will be a moment. Yeah, when that happens. Yeah. You're just going to be so torn in terms of how you feel about it.
I know, and like with you with Ambrose, obviously, as well, because he's so...
Yeah, he is absolutely attached.
Mummy's boy.
Completely and utterly. Yeah. Screams at Matt to go away, and so funny. He's going through a thing at the moment, though. Like, he turned 3, and Ambrose has been so easy with everything, right? But he's turned 3, and now it's like the cutest thing because we just look at him, he's having a little tantrum, and we're like, oh, bless. Because we just know. And he's a second kid, so we know this is going to be the passing phase. So I'm not stressed or worried about it at all. It's more adorable than anything when he's cracking the absolute shits about, I don't know, the wrong shorts.
Yeah.
Matt got him the wrong shorts to wear today or whatever it is. But yeah, it's really funny.
So apart from obviously talking to us, talking to your mother's group, talking to your father's group, talking to friends, strangers, teachers, whoever it might be, have you found any other resources or anything that sort of has helped you, maybe not necessarily deal with your identity, but anything that has helped you on this journey of parenthood? Because ultimately it does help with identity and helps with, it's like a holistic approach. It helps with everything parenting, including identity. Anything you've got that you could recommend?
Not everyone's going to agree with me, but spending time with myself. I love me time in terms of, I would love to go see a movie by myself. I love eating dinner by myself. Actually, tomorrow night I'm going to have dinner by myself. It's all planned. Can't wait. And I think when you become a mum, the noise that surrounds you becomes constant. And that is, you're needed by everyone, I feel, instantly. Your kids, your partner, even my mom, and just like you're babysitting, it's just really noisy all the time. So for me, when I get the luxury of spending time by myself, and it's not like I'm going for a bath or that me time stuff, it's no, I'm going to go out by myself and have dinner by myself whilst I think about whatever it is, or going for a walk by myself, whatever it is. For me, that stuff is quite therapeutic in terms of spending time by myself and allowing myself, giving myself that space, that mental, physical, emotional space to evaluate, to review, to reflect on the stuff that's happened with me recently. And I know not everyone's going to like that. So that's where it's either talk to people about it or reflect on yourself, or do I do, which is a combination of both, I think is really great. In terms of talking with people about it, you know what? I'm a big advocate for seeing a professional. Call a I think Beyond Blue and use those services because they're there for a reason and they really help. Sometimes, as you said, talking to a stranger is great because they'll just be like, how about this? You're like, oh my God, I've never thought of that, or whatever it is. And your friends are also in it. So maybe it is sometimes really great just to talk to someone who's completely out of it, doesn't know you, and can maybe throw a few things at you where you haven't thought about. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I would say for me, and something that might be good for them to consider if they are finding that there's a lot of noise and they just don't have time or space to reflect on things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you articulated that perfectly. I think the noise, that really resonated. As soon as you said there's a lot of noise, that really resonated because all I have around me 24/7 is noise, whether it's in my own brain or it's stuff with everything else and all the pings from the school and childcare and all the lists that I need to. It's just that there is a lot of noise. So however that looks like for you, I'm not personally comfortable to go and have lunch or dinner with myself. Like I will go get food, but to sit at a restaurant by myself,
Oh yeah.
I'm just not there yet.
Sure.
But of course, I'll go for a walk by myself if there. Or I've never gone to a movie either, but there are some things that I will do by myself that I'm happy to do by myself. But I'm not as extreme as you, so props to you. But and the thing that I do a lot of, and I'm actually reconsidering it now after you made that noise comment, is like I listen to a lot of podcasts and YouTube and a lot of experts, and they are good because they do make me consider things that I haven't thought of before, and case studies, and you relate them back to your own upbringing, you relate them back to your point in time moments where you're going through a particular event. But it does also bring the noise. Like it brings a lot of opinions and it brings a lot of noise. And I think you have to be in a really good place where you can take what you need and discard what you don't. And yeah, that comes with time. It comes with a lot of experience. It comes with some wisdom. If you can spend time with yourself, if you're comfortable to spend time with yourself in whatever capacity and reflect, do that. If you're really stuck, talk to someone. If you're still really stuck, maybe go and seek some like proper professional help because it's not taboo anymore. I don't feel like it's taboo anymore. And I'm so glad for the generation that has come in and they're like, no, we have issues and we want to fix them and we want to better ourselves. I'm like, yes, none of this push it down. And it's just, anyway, different times back then, but I think it's so great. So don't think that anyone's going to judge you. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. There's nothing wrong with talking to people about an issue. I guarantee you they're probably going through it, or they have gone through it, or they will go through it. So don't feel so much pressure on yourself to be perfect all the time, for your kids to be perfect all the time. That ties in a lot with identity because sometimes if they're not perfect, you feel like, oh, what have I done wrong? They're going to go through their own journey. They're going to make their mistakes. Let them make their own mistakes. It's nothing to do with you. Yes, take them to soccer practice and they become a good soccer player, sure, but they're the ones that put in the work. If they do something bad at school, they're the ones that have done it. You weren't there. So anyway, I try to like really separate Aiden and Amelia from me, they are cute when they do stuff that like resembles you, or they have a little saying that you're like, oh yeah, they totally picked that up from me. But
Yes.
ultimately they're going to be their own person. They're going to go through their own journey, have their own friends. Like they're not going to have the same experiences as you. They're going to have different heartbreaks. They're going to have different problems that they have to overcome. And all you can do is be there and teach them through your wisdom and hope for the best. Give them some sort of independence to sort it out on their own, because you can't
Yep.
be there 24/7. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's true, unfortunately.
So I think that wraps up today's conversation about identity shifts and its ongoing impact on various aspects of our lives, particularly in parenting, particularly as a mum. We hope that it's helped to give you a reminder that life is ever changing. We are humans. We are going to change. We're going to evolve. We're going to shift in terms of how we see ourselves. Just when you think we've moved past a certain phase, there it is again. Remember, understanding and reflecting on our identities can be a powerful tool in fostering growth and resilience. I know for me, it's really just allowing myself that space to take it in. So we hope this resonates with you in some way. Would love to hear your thoughts or experiences relating to today's topic. Feel free to connect with us on social media or send us an email. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing. Don't consider, please subscribe and leave us a review, and please share with your friends and family. Thanks for tuning in to Milk and Madness. This has been Yi and Dee. Until next time, catch you later, friends.
Bye.